All right, guys, today we are going to talk about how to kill a sales slump. Now, the cool thing is that this actually works for any slump you might be experiencing, whether it's in personal life, business, you name it. This process actually works every single time. So I'm going to give you the 4-step process here to ensure that you 100% guarantee your success when you do this. I've done this a handful of times. I've walked countless agents through the same process. It literally works every single time, so long as you do it. That's the piece. So, number one, you get out of a slump essentially by putting accountability in place to make it totally unreasonable that you would fall back into old habits. Define what are the habits that need changed, or what are the new habits. I hear sometimes that, look, it's hard to exactly define what that should be, right? I mean, sometimes we get into a rut because we don't know what else we should be doing. And so the easiest way around that is to think about, and this comes from a guy named Alex Hermosi, taught me this. He said, if you're trying to increase sales, for instance, as an example, what are the things that would guarantee you fail at that? So come up with the things that guarantee you fail at whatever you're doing. So if you're trying to increase sales in real estate, I don't know, you are going to sleep in every day until 9 a.m. You are going to passively sit and wait for your phone to ring, and I don't know, you're going to be a secretive agent, make it difficult for people to realize that what you do. That would pretty well guarantee that you would fail in real estate sales, yes or yes. So those three things. So now what we're going to do is you're just going to flip it. You're going to do the opposite of those three things. So the first one was, I'm not going to get up till 9 a.m. Well, do the opposite, right? Whatever the opposite looks like. If you change nothing, then nothing changes. I'm not saying you need to get up at 4 a.m, but if you've determined that 9 a.m. is the time that you are guaranteed to fail, then pick a time earlier than that, right? And start there. Number 2, you said that you were going to sit back and passively wait for your phone to ring. Well, okay, so we're not going to be passive anymore. We're going to be actively engaged in making sure prospects are reaching out to us. How are we going to do that? Well, maybe it's networking, maybe it's whatever. But again, you're finding the set of circumstances that guarantee you fail, and then you're going to flip it and pick the opposite. Step 2 is, what are the backstops that you're going to put in place to prevent you from sliding back into old habits? Because look, guys, a lot of the stuff, it's not that we don't always know what to do. It's not that we are unable to do it. It's that we've gotten ourselves into bad habits. Many times that's why we are in the situation we're in. So I think there's 3 main things that need to be in place in order to be an effective backstop. The first is people. So what people are going to be in place to hold you accountable? If you were capable of holding you accountable, you would have done it already. So you are not an effective person in this situation. You need to find somebody else that's outside of them that's not going to have a hard time coming to you and saying, hey, Alex, I think you're slipping again. I think you need to get back on track. Or whatever that, Tom Ferry calls it a carefrontation. I kind of like that word. Somebody who's not scared to have a carefrontation with you. And obviously somebody who cares enough to have it. What are the processes that you need to have in place, right, to make sure that you don't sleep until 9 a.m. Your goal maybe is going to get up at 6 a.m. And so I would argue if part of this is getting up earlier, the process starts before the alarm clock goes off. The process actually starts the night before. So define what process you need to have. Maybe it's simply, getting yourself in motion during the day. You don't know what that looks like. Now, I'll tell you, my team and I, we share it's actually just a Google sheet where we call it our scorecard. And so we have 28 different activities listed out on this scorecard. Not that we need to do all 28 each day. It would be nearly impossible to do that. But if we ever get stuck, right, we can simply look to these 28 activities that we know move the needle in our business, and we just pick one, right? So I would say one of the processes that you could consider is, again, for getting up early, you got to start choreographing the night before. And the plan starts there, not when the alarm's going off in the morning. If you've waited till then, you probably waited too long. So I would say you need to have that in place, like a time block schedule, for instance, in that situation. As a quick freebie, if you guys want the 28 things that my team and I use to keep ourselves in motion every single day, just reach out, ask for it. I'm happy to give it to you. Third part of step 2, in terms of what backstops are we putting in place to prevent ourselves from going backwards, I think you need to have a consequence. So I call these actually the 3 Ps: people, process, and pain. Unfortunately, humans respond way better or way more effectively to pain than they do something good. Unfortunately, that's just true, right? And so I think it was Tony Robbins that said, look, the change happens when the pain of status quo becomes greater than the pain of change. Think about that. So sometimes that comes along by itself, right? But sometimes we have to put that in ourselves. So for instance, I had a coach many, many years ago, a business coach, who, as I was getting started in my career, he made me stroke out a check. And I think at the time it was an amount of money that really would have hurt, right? But wasn't going to break my bank. And so I think at the time I wrote out a check for like $1,000, right? And I just, would have been beside myself to see this $1,000 go to something other than what I wanted to go toward. And so he made me identify a cause that really was in, just direct contradiction with my own values. And he said, look, if you don't make your calls, I'm sending the check in. So I had to stroke out the check for $1,000 made out to a cause that I didn't believe in. And, look, this can take the form of ex-spouses. It can take the form of political campaigns that you don't like, whatever it is, right? But have that check stroked out. And then somebody in the people that you identified, right, they're the ones who hold the check. And if you don't follow through on the things you said you would do, they're sending the check to your ex-spouse for $1,000, right? I mean, that would get you motivated, right? So have pain in place. Again, it can be fun stuff, right? So we've done contests before. I actually have a bet going on with an agent at another brokerage that he identified that he really needed to roll out his brand, and he hadn't been doing it because of fear and some other things. And so we just made a gentleman's bet, right? That if he got his brand rolled out by a certain date, then he got some sort of benefit. But if he didn't roll it out by a certain date, well, then he had to wash somebody's car on our team while wearing our brand, right? And we were going to live stream that on social media. So again, it doesn't have to be horrible stuff, right? But it's enough to motivate you and say, all right, washing somebody else's car, live streamed on social media, wearing somebody else's brand, right? So it's enough pain that gets you in motion. Number 3 then, how are you bringing transparency to this process? In other words, what's the check-in cadence? So, if you've got the people and you've got your processes that you're going to follow and you've got your pain if you don't follow through with stuff, this only works if you're transparent about what you are or are not doing. And so on our team, we literally have our scorecards and we post up the scores every single day. It's not a judgment thing. We're not judging whether somebody's high score, low score, whatever. But the point is that we will be accountable. We will be accountable to the things that we do or don't do. And then, of course, what's the cadence for that? So again, is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it monthly? You think back to brands like Weight Watchers, right? I mean, they were really successful because they had a cadence of, I think it was every week, right? You had to show up and you had to weigh in. And if you didn't, then like the food or whatever cost more. I don't know what it was, but there was a pain attached to it. And so again, guys, this process is not one that I certainly didn't make it up, but it is one that I've implemented a lot. So step 4 then, guys, is simply execute, right? You have to execute on this. If you agree to meet with your accountability partner every single week, or you agree to, you all are going to exchange texts every single day with a screenshot of you out door knocking or a screenshot of your call log, right? Then do it. That's the biggest piece is this you're only going to be as successful as you actually set yourself up to be, right? So if you put all this in place and then choose to do none of it, I'm willing to bet that you're actually not going to see any progress, right? So just to recap, step 1 is define what it is you're committed to. What are the things that you're going to change? Step 2, what are the backstops that you're going to put in place to prevent yourself, make it unreasonable to assume you slide backwards? Those things include people, process, and pain. And number 3, how are you bringing transparency to this process, right? How are you going to make sure that the people holding you accountable actually know whether you're doing what you said you would do? And number 4, then simply execute on this plan. Guys, I hope this is helpful. If you need this, I hope you use it and hopefully turn things around and have a hell of a lot better year than some of us have had in 2023. Thanks so much.